I've had people ask me questions about doing certain procedures and so forth, and then I ask them, well, is that a good show? Does that convince the rest of the world that you're right? Well, it turns out it doesn't a lot of times. You know, just because you're legally right doesn't mean you're right in the public perception. And who is this public I'm talking about? Well, it's the court clerk, it's the sheriff, it's the marshal, it's the cops, it's the mayor of the city if the case is important enough for him to notice it, and so on. It's all these people who hold the guns. Okay, you want those people to be convinced you're right. Now, they may know they're doing wrong and taking your rights away on purpose, but the first step is to have them know you're right. Now, when they know you're right and they're wrong, that takes a little bit of steam out of their efforts. Okay? There's something about us humans that in general we tend to limit ourselves. Just like I told you the story earlier about the Buddhist monk that was head of all the other monks. Nobody would kill him because they liked him. Okay? He knew how to run his court, so to speak. He knew how to keep things looking good so that as he did his damage, people held back. They didn't take retribution on him, even though he was a major problem internationally for the government. So that's the first consideration. A court is a stage upon which the sovereign conducts his show so as to satisfy the rest of the world that his decision is a good one. Now, sometimes you do find somebody not guilty, but basically you're the plaintiff, the sovereign plaintiff. You know what the person did to you. He knows what you did to you. I mean, between you, you know what the truth is. So why have the court? You know, well, it's because you're actually putting on a show for the rest of the world. So put on a good show, okay? Don't take shortcuts. It'll pay. So that's what a court really is, in practical terms. Now, there's all kinds of courts, okay? You know about admiralty courts, maritime courts, court of the exchequer, court of claims, all kinds of courts. But in America, there is only one court, and that's a court of record. All the other courts are what we call nisi prius courts. They are courts that exist because you failed to object. Okay?
And you called it what kind of court?
A nisi prius court. That translates from Latin into without prior objection. A nisi prius court is a court that exists because of no prior objection. Okay? So, and you'll see it's right here. You see it, I have it on the menu, nisi prius court. And one time, I got a letter from somebody objecting. And so I put his objection up on the website, and then I put my answer to it, describing a nisi prius court. It might be worth studying. But the important thing to understand about a nisi prius court is it's a court that exists without objection. So all those courts I mentioned are nisi prius courts. Another way, you could call them contract courts, but they're contracted because of your failure to object. See, you don't have to have an overt act to have a contract. I mean, an overt agreement. By the actions of the parties, you know there's a contract going on. You know, if I give you some money and then I walk off and take your car, we never had an agreement to do that, but you accepted the money and I accepted the car. You gave me the keys. Even if we never spoke a word, you know that there's some meeting of the minds there. Some agreement, right? After all, you took the money and I took the car. So a contract can exist on nothing more than the action of the parties. You don't have to have it in writing. You don't have to have the words spoken or anything else. Just what you did that shows there's a contract, an agreement, understanding. Nobody objected, right? You didn't object to me taking your car, and I didn't object to you accepting my money. So there's an implied contract there.
Well, the reason, Mr. Bill, we go back and forth like ping pong on my case is that I knew right away they would need new contract. But since I refused to get into their plate, then that's what started the bouncing ball back and forth, until the end of the day, until the end of the year. So that really explained a whole lot. If you're in contract, then you could play in contract. If not, you understand what the court you're in.
Sure.
But I don't want to play the game. That's what it is.
Right. You don't have to agree to a contract, and don't act like you do. Or if you do act like you're going to go into a contract, make an objection when you go in. Now, what used to be known as a Uniform Commercial Code Section 1-207, or I guess in California it's 1207, contract you can do anything you want. It doesn't matter if it's gold or silver involved. It's whatever the parties agree to. Because in your sovereign capacity, you have unlimited power to contract.
Bill, I had this issue with the city of Carlsbad. They wanted me to fill out a business license form. I said, I don't need to. I said, I don't need your permission to contract.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
I said,
common law right.
Yeah, and I said, show me where you can force me to do this. And the lady said, well, I'll get back to you. I gave her my number, never heard from her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times one of the characteristics of a true monarchy or a true dictatorship is that things are done at the whim of the dictator. It's policy instead of law. So they have their policies of what they do, but obviously, so far anyway, there's no law.
Greetings, Bill. I got a question for you.
Get close to the mic.
Okay, I've got a question for you. I've got a building permit that's still active, and I was wondering if I have that building permit and it's still active, if a judge can appoint a receiver. Does he have the jurisdiction to appoint a receiver when I've got a contract with the city?
Well, that answer is very simply answered by reading the contract.
Okay. That's what I thought. I didn't think he had jurisdiction.
Where acting party does not make a claim of an injury or threat of injury because of your failure to do or your threat to do something, then the judge has no authority either. But that's all in their court anyway. What you really need to do is a counterclaim on these guys and sue them.
Great. Okay, thank you very much.
We'll get into that later about the counterclaims. So, anyway, so the Nisi Prius court is a court that exists because of the failure to object to whatever it is they are doing. And that's fine. You can run a court any way you want as long as everybody agrees and as long as nobody objects. But if somebody objects, the only court that can exist without the voluntary participation of everybody is a court of record. Now, a court of record has to meet some criteria. Here's the requirements of a court of record. The first requirement is optional. It generally has a seal. The reason it's optional is because very simple. Back in olden days, the making of a seal was a very, very expensive proposition. They didn't have the tools, metalworking tools that we got today. And there were sovereigns who were too poor to have their own private metallurgist. So the seal is optional. And in fact, if you want a seal, all you have to do is put the word seal by your signature, and now it's sealed.
Are you aware that Black's 5th and 6th took out that number 4?
Pardon?
Black's 5th and 6th.
Well, I'm working toward these things. So I went to the United States District Court in Las Vegas a couple years ago, and I wanted some sort of a certified document, which means they'd have to seal it.